Hey guys, we've talked about this a lot before, but mass media and Silicon Valley censorship of conservatives has gone into overdrive, especially on social media. So I want to tell you guys about a new platform that is the answer to this suppression. It's called Pocketnet.app, and it's the first social network that has no corporation and no central server. It works like a network of equal nodes, kind of like Bitcoin, so it's very difficult to shut down or censor. Users only decide which content they want to see, what's appropriate for them, and when you get high ratings on your content, you earn Pocketcoin. It's the Pocketnet system token. You can create your own private key login at Pocketnet.app. Viewers of this channel will get a special offer. For a limited time, when you sign up, you can get 5 Pocketcoin just for signing up at Pocketnet.app, and you use the link below the video to do just that. This is your chance to get in early and build your reputation and defend your right to free speech on the platform of the future. So sign up today by going to Pocketnet.app and join up. Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I hope everyone had a nice and relaxing holiday weekend, the Memorial Day holiday where we sit back and reflect to thank our fallen brothers and sisters who chose to serve bravely in the armed forces. First of all, today I do have a story related to No Name. Here he is, photographed with Source D and Source E of the Steele dossier, Sergey Milyan. How interesting is that? Here with Source D and Source E of the Steele dossier. In January 2017, ABC News identified Sergey Milyan as the key source of the Fusion GPS anti-Trump dossier. Sergey has since been identified as the mysterious Source D and Source E in the junk Steele dossier, and ABC News interviewed him in 2017. Sarah Carter wrote more about Sergey Milyan in March of 2019. Milyan was a source for the Steele dossier, and he disappeared after the election. According to former Trump policy advisor George Papadopoulos, Milyan, a Belarus-born businessman, became an unwitting source of Steele. Papa D believes Milyan was working with the FBI and therefore was trying to help build a relationship with him, as reported in the Washington Post. Just re-looking at my notes from my convo with Chris Steele, I see that Chris in Pkwy has some connection to Sergey Milyan, an emigre who was identified by Financial Times as head of the Russian-American Chamber of Commerce, Kovelik told Orr in the November 21st, 2016 email. According to what Chris said to me in early October, Milyan has apparently disappeared, i.e. left the U.S., and hasn't been seen recently. I don't know anything about Milyan, but he is referenced in the Financial Times story. Orr noted that the two had met regarding Steele's information, which was later passed to the FBI. Kathy, thank you for taking the time to meet with us, said Orr in an email exchange on that day. I really hope we can get something going here. Orr was, of course, responding to an email Kovelik sent earlier in the day. Pkwy had left Russia because he said he was concerned he might be investigated. As I recall, he said he had gotten a summons to court on some issue. On Sunday, Paul Sperry posted this photo of No Name and Sergey Milyan. There they are, hanging out. Now, of course, we know that No Name and one of his top aides had a serious connection to the dossier, used to funnel the dossier to places like BuzzFeed and others. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually had a much deeper role than has until this point been revealed. But very telling that we see No Name and Sergey Milyan shaking hands here. That would lead one to believe that they may have a fairly close relationship, at least more than just a passing photo op in the halls of Congress. I would imagine it was probably in the halls of Congress. So if anyone has anything that they can add to this story, I'm going to be doing some more digging on Sergey Milyan, and we'll see what we can find. Now next, calls are growing to prosecute John Brennan after the existence of clandestine clown assets in top level of Russian government is leaked. Incredible news. Former clown director John Brennan continued his public meltdown on Friday. President Trump released a statement on Thursday night ordering that declass of the intelligence related to the spying on the Trump campaign in 2016. Brennan, of course, was triggered after the news broke and lashed out at the president. He said, "Young people everywhere, please do not emulate Mr. Trump's very immature behavior. Find others of honesty, integrity, and decency to be your role models, and always try to do what you know is the right thing, even when doing what is right is both unpopular and difficult." Of course, there is a hilarious cartoon here that President Trump sent out on a Twitter account showing Brennan, Clapper, and Comey all pointing at each other, because this is exactly what's happening right now. They are in a circular firing squad, blaming each of the other ones for including the dossier in the information that was presented to Congress and from those intelligence agencies. John Brennan with the hammer and sickle. On Friday, Brennan joined Chris Hayes on MSNBC and continued to lash out at Trump, calling his move outrageous and unprecedented. You know what was unprecedented, John Brennan, was when you and your cronies got together and decided to pull a coup against the democratically elected president of our republic, President Donald Trump. Did you think you could get away with it? I think you did, and I think that's why you're so upset. Brennan went on to say, "My former colleagues in the intelligence community are looking upon this with great concern and worry because their goose is cooked, because you guys have completely screwed the pooch on this one." Then on Friday, the deep state leaked to the New York Times that Brennan's Russian source, who determined that Putin personally ordered an influence campaign in 2016 aimed at the U.S. presidential election to undermine Hillary Clinton in favor of Trump, would be outed if Barr released information on the Obama administration spying on the opposition party. Now there are calls for former clown chief John Brennan to be prosecuted for revealing the existence of a deep state cover clandestine source inside the Russian government. Oh, Tony Schaefer tweeted, "T-Spooky. If this is the case, and John Brennan revealed the existence of a deep cover clandestine source in Russia, he can and should be prosecuted immediately for compromising the source and doing grave damage from the release of top secret information. This, at minimum, sedition." That's right. Wow, it is evidence that John Brennan put this alleged source in danger, not President Trump. It's time to prosecute John Brennan. Something tells me that John Brennan was okay with doing this because he knew that there was a distinct possibility that if this source was outed, I am pretty certain that the Russian government would go after them immediately, and that would make it so that they would not be able to testify. Perhaps that source would be imprisoned or worse, made to walk the gallows. So this is a big, big deal. We know that Brennan has a relationship with the New York Times. He has leaked things in the past. This is a enormous gaffe on his part. Brennan is the one that is putting our country at risk. Brennan is the one that is leaking classified information. Brennan is the one who needs to pay. I reported the other day that he still has his security clearance, and that puts every single one of us at risk, not least of all President Trump. We need to see justice, and that includes John Brennan being forced to face the consequences of his actions. Keep a close eye on this one, kids. All right, next I have a tweet thread from Roscoe Davis. Roscoe is a favorite of the program. We've spoken about him many times in the past. This is from my good friend Cats5. Samantha Power is the subject of this thread, and she has a long history of being pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel. It's no secret. In 2002, Power made the above statement calling for a U.S. military invasion of Israel. In 2009, Obama appointed Power to the National Security Council as Director for Multilateral Affairs. This is a tweet from Jack Posobiec. He said that the White House plans to declassify documents showing that Samantha Power was on a one-woman crusade for the Palestinians and against Israel in 2016. Repeated unmaskings were used to ensure her effort did not fail. Now, this is the statement that Power made in 2002. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
I don't think that in any of the cases a shortage of information is the problem. And I actually think in the Palestine-Israeli situation, there's an abundance of information. And what we don't need is some kind of early warning mechanism there. What we need is a willingness to actually put something on the line in service of helping the situation. And putting something on the line might mean alienating a domestic constituency of tremendous political and financial import. It may more crucially mean sacrificing or investing, I think more than sacrificing, literally billions of dollars not in servicing Israelis, military, but actually in investing in the new state of Palestine, in investing billions of dollars it would probably take also to support, I think, what will have to be a mammoth protection force, not of the old, Srebrenica kind or the Rwanda kind, but a meaningful military presence, because it seems to me at this stage, and this is true of actual genocides as well, and not just major human rights abuses, which we're seeing there, but is that you have to go in as if you're serious. You have to put something on the line, and unfortunately, imposition of a solution on unwilling parties is dreadful. I mean, it's a terrible thing to do. It's fundamentally undemocratic. But sadly, we don't just have a democracy here either. We have a liberal democracy. There are certain sets of principles that guide, our policy, or they're meant to anyway. And there, it's essential that some set of principles becomes the best benchmark, rather than a deference to people who are fundamentally politically destined to destroy the lives of their own people. And by that I mean what Tom Friedman has called Sharafat. I do think in that sense there's that both political leaders have been dreadfully irresponsible, and unfortunately it does require external intervention, which, very much like the Rwanda scenario, that thought experiment, if we had intervened early, any intervention is going to come under fierce criticism. But we have to think about lesser evils, especially when the human stakes are just becoming ever more pronounced.
Wow, she definitely is talking about an invasion of Israel. She specifically spoke about alienating a large demographic here with massive political and monetary ties. Listen carefully to her words at 30 seconds and do some research on her background and that of her husband, Cass Sunstein. That guy is evil incarnate. They are hardcore radicals and believe in the destruction of Israel. America is a liberal democracy. This is part of the Chicago radicals. Samantha Power is the former far-left United Nations ambassador under Hussein. Power succeeded Susan E. Rice. Power unmasked 296 names of U.S. persons between July 2015 and January 2017. She unmasked close to 100 associated with the 2016 Trump campaign under the former administration's illegal and criminal Fisa abuse to interfere with 2016 presidential election and aid the campaign of HRC. Power testified that others used her name in unmasking requests. Speculation is that she was unmasking for two people in the former inner circle of the former administration that had no clearance to unmask, those two people being Ben Rhodes and Valerie Jarrett. Susan Rice unmasked over 200 U.S. persons' names during the same time frame. Power is the wife of the former president's initial regulatory czar, Cass Sunstein. He co-authored the book The Nudge with Richard Thaler. It's a radical liberal viewpoint of central planning, and it's put on display along with a defense of paternalism and what is termed choice architecture. To quote Sunstein, once we know that people are human and have some Homer Simpson in them, there's a lot that can be done to manipulate them. This guy is dangerous. The book title is descriptive of its content in that the authors believe they can use the government to nudge you into making better decisions. They push architecting people's choices and the ability to exert an influence over people. Now, knowing this and looking back at the tactics of the former administration guys, can you see it in action? Power is the author of the Obama Doctrine, referred to as R2P, Responsibility to Protect, through humanitarian interventionism. Power has advocated a U.S. military invasion of Israel under her theories to protect Palestinian militants. I posted a video of her view earlier. That was that. After spending Obama's first term as a foreign policy advisor and the key architect behind collapsing the nation of Libya with ensuing chaos, the former president rewarded Power with the post of UN ambassador. Samantha Power was the primary decision-maker behind that president's interventionist entry into the Libya war. It was Power, along with Susan Rice and HRC, who led the framework of the Libyan uprising, specifically the former president's military aid and support for AQ in Benghazi. Power is closely aligned with John Brennan and has tweeted in support of taunts and threats against President Trump. She once tweeted at President Trump, "It's not a good idea to PISS off John Brennan." Wow. Sounds a little bit like Chuck Schumer when he reminded the president that the intelligence agencies has 16 ways till Sunday to tear him a new one, basically. The architects of the humanitarian catastrophe in Libya, Obama initially billed U.S. intervention to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe. However, after Gaddafi's murder, the black African slave trade re-emerged in open markets in Libya. Scary, scary stuff. NATO was used to give cover for that administration's direct involvement. Hillary leveraged her influence to make piles of cash, brokering illegal weapons to AQ in Benghazi. Yet weapons from that cash wound up killing our own troops in Afghanistan.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Hillary Clinton is an evil, evil woman, and anyone associated with that former president's administration, such as Susan Rice, HRC, Samantha Power, all equally of the same ilk. I just thought that this was an excellent little insight into the type of people that were surrounding that individual and the kinds of things that were on their minds. They never were interested in things like, world peace, humanitarian doctrine, stuff like that. This was about power. This was about lifting certain people into power. And once it was upon her that she was going to be able to use her power to illegally unmask people all around President Trump and that time candidate Trump, it was something that she did immediately. Now, if you'll also remember, Ben Rhodes was the individual who, after President Trump was elected, was left speechless. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick.
I just came outside to try to process all this. It's a lot to process. I mean, I can't even. I can't. I mean, I can't. I can't put it into words. I don't know what the words are. I mean,
This is the look of a man who knows that his days are numbered. People like him, people like Samantha Power, people like the cabal that we are all fighting against. This is the look of abject terror. Now, another individual appointed by the former president. This is the Fisa court judge, Rudy Contreras. He recused himself from the General Flynn case. It did not stop him from courting controversy. He is still involved in multiple Fisa court abuses. Now, Fisa court judge Rudy Contreras, who oversaw General Flynn's case, is friends with corrupt former FBI agent Peter Strzok, who set up General Flynn in the White House. The judge is now reportedly involved in fraudulent warrants in front of the Fisa court. In December 2017, we reported that the judge overseeing the General Flynn case, who accepted the general's guilty plea, Rudy Contreras, recused himself from the Flynn case before sentencing. Now, Judge Contreras was appointed by the former president in 2012 as United States District Judge for the District of Columbia. Also, Judge Rudolph Contreras was appointed by Obama to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court in 2016. Every single judge on the Fisa court as of March 2017 was appointed during Obama's presidency. Do you guys think that was a coincidence? Chief Justice John Roberts has been in his role since 2005, and therefore he has appointed all the judges to the Fisa court. Judge Roberts is famous for supporting the former president's health care initiative in two radical positions, one of which Justice Antonin Scalia, in his withering dissent, referred to as applesauce. Knowing this, it is concerning that Judge Roberts also is responsible for the makeup of the current Fisa court. In December 2018, it was reported that Judge Contreras is also a friend of fired corrupt FBI agent Peter Strzok. Strzok. Text messages were uncovered showing Strzok's relationship with the judge. Sarah Carter reported on these texts. In a text message chain from Page to Strzok on July 25, 2016, she writes, "Rudy is on the Fisk. Did you know that? Just appointed 2 months ago." At that point, the pair continues to discuss other issues, but comes back to Contreras. "I did. We talked about it before and after. I need to get together with him." Then later, Strzok appears to return to his discussion about Contreras. The takedown of General Flynn was a deep state setup. Dirty cop Andrew McCabe and disgraced FBI agent Peter Strzok worked in coordination to take out General Flynn. Trump-hating FBI agent Peter Strzok then ambushed General Flynn and interviewed him on January 24, 2017, without his lawyer present. Strzok and Judge Contreras were buddies. Now we know that Judge Contreras is involved in numerous other FISA court abuses. Former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova was on the air a week ago, and he shared this. He said, "Remember Mr. Contreras, the judge who recused himself from the Flynn case after taking the plea? It is now known that he was involved in several other FISA warrants involved in this matter, fraud on the FISA court. Judge Contreras has a lot of explaining to do, and so does the Chief Justice of the United States, as to what he's done to fix the mess that has been created by the FISA court. General Flynn was set up, pure and simple. There's much we still don't know. The exact reason for corrupt Judge Contreras to recuse himself from the Flynn case is still unknown. We don't know why he did it or who asked him to recuse himself. The U.S. FBI, intel communities, and FISA courts have a lot of explaining to do, and Americans demand justice." I speculated recently on the program that I think he was probably asked to recuse himself once it came out that he and Strzok were good buddies. It's incredible to think that Strzok was the one investigating General Flynn and actually went about the process of entrapping him, and then had him sent directly in front of Contreras, his good buddy, to have him tried and sentenced. Hopefully, someone in the Trump administration was able to get the information, and they're the ones who asked him to recuse himself so that he couldn't do more damage. But I would really, really like to see Judge Contreras also brought to justice, because this is just another Obama crony still working for the former administration, this virtual third-term president. Now, also in a recent interview, Joe DeGenova said, "We are in a full-scale war." He went off on the enemy of the people. This is against FBI Director Christopher Wray. Former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova announced on the air yesterday that the U.S. is in a full-scale war. President Trump and his Attorney General William Barr stand for justice against the corrupt FBI, intel agencies, Democrats, and the far-left media complex. DeGenova spoke yesterday on Memorial Day on the air, and he again brought to the listeners' attention the state that we are in today. He said, "Full-scale war. Let me tell you exactly what's going on here. This is very important for the listener. When Bill Barr became Attorney General, the president said, 'See what you can do. See if you can get to the bottom of what happened during the campaign.' Bill Barr tried to do that, and you will recall from his interview with Fox, he said he now had more questions than he had when we started. Chris Wray, the current FBI director, was stonewalling the current Attorney General Bill Barr on disclosure of certain information about FBI conduct. It got very, very heated, so he and Gina Haspel, the current clown director, was also resisting disclosure of certain information. Barr got fed up. He went to the president and said, 'I can't answer your question, and here's why.' The president said, 'Fine.' 24 hours later, the order came out. This is a full-scale war between Attorney General of the United States and, believe it or not, another FBI director who thinks he's James Comey. Christopher Wray is a disaster. He's an unmitigated disaster. You are watching the quintessential Washington power battle. Here's the problem for the agencies, the FBI and the clowns. They have one distinct advantage. They can leak to the Post and to the Times, but they do not have subpoena power, and Bill Barr does. We are headed for a gigantic fight. The intelligence community, including the FBI, is in full resistance in disclosing what they did during the presidential campaign. Christopher Wray is now standing in the way of history. Make no mistake about it, Christopher Wray has become an enemy of the people." DeGenova spoke about the FISA abuse that we reported on over a year ago, where an audit of the court showed numerous crimes and stated that the former president and James Clapper's NSA had an institutional lack of candor, meaning they were liars. These liars and criminals are under attack, and they are resisting with all their might. We are at war. We, President Trump, Attorney General Barr, and the American people will win. For the sake of humanity, we have to. Now, I actually have a different theory than Joe DeGenova here. I think that by way of Christopher Wray and Gina Haspel, pushing back on the information that Attorney General Barr was asking for, it forced the president to be able to do the declass, because he can say legitimately the FBI and the CIA were not being candid. They were not handing over the information that the Attorney General was requesting. So now, by declassifying it, it gives the Attorney General access to all of it, unmitigated access, and then he and the others in the DOJ can go through it. He can have his team go through it, and then he can go ahead and say yes, 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 put it all out. So I think that it's very possible that this is another part of the plan that we are seeing play out. However, of course, Joe DeGenova is not going to know that. He just wants disclosure, as many of us do. So I can't fault him for thinking that perhaps Haspel and Wray are acting against the president. But as we've been told, we should trust Wray, and it sounded like we should trust Haspel. So let's just continue to watch the show, you guys. Things are happening every day. Now, finally, over the weekend, Neon Revolt did a very expansive article here regarding something called Operation Charlemagne, the Silent Ones, and I Pyramid. It started off with a tip-off from this gentleman right here, Giulio Occhionero. He made a tweet referring to the Silent Ones. Well, if you guys remember, the Silent Ones was something that was dropped in a post from way back when. That would have been post number 97 in the early days of this movement, November 5th, 2017. The Silent Ones. Now, it's never been referred to again. It's never been explained. And this is the only thing that ever included it. So, again, no more drops, nothing. So it just kind of slipped past the public perception. And when you go searching for it online, you don't find anything about it. But this particular account, Giulio, had been tweeting about the Silent Ones in relation to the Spygate scandal. All right, so Neon went and did quite a bit of investigative work here. And we know that very recently, the Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte fired the top management of 3 Italian intelligence agencies. We talked about this previously, and I stated at that time I believed it was very likely due to their involvement in the Spygate scandal, because we knew that Joseph Mifsud had been living in Italy, so perhaps there was some connection there to the Italian government and these intel agencies. And Giulio Occhionero actually confirmed that in a tweet on May 16th. So now the question is, who is Giulio Occhionero, and what is his involvement in Spygate, or perhaps with the Silent Ones? So basically, Giulio was arrested in early 2017 along with his sister Francesca Maria and imprisoned for about a year on hacking charges. So what they were doing was planting something called the Pyramid Eye, allowed them to gain remote access with a Trojan virus on computers using a spear phishing technique over the course of several years. They attacked at least 18,000 high-profile targets, including former Prime Ministers Matteo Renzi and Mario Monti, President of European Central Bank Mario Draghi, as well as employees and heads of various ministries, including Internal Affairs, Treasury, Finance, and Education. Also attacked were members of the Parliament and the Bank of Italy, Vatican, Cardinal Gianfro Ravasi, and several members of the Freemasons, an organization where Giulio Occhionero belonged as a Grand Master in a Roman chapter. At least 1,700 of the attacks appear to have been successful. Police investigations netted email passwords, 1,137 credentials for compromised PCs, and a trove of 87 gigabytes of data spread across a network of several command and control backup servers and computers in Italy and the U.S. The Italian Postal Police obtained assistance from the FBI in seizing and monitoring the U.S. portion of the server infrastructure. This is very important. Giulio Occhionero has a master's degree in nuclear engineering, is a founder of the Malta-based quantitative financial analysis firm Westland Securities, and is also a software developer with several certifications. He allegedly modified and developed new features for the Pyramid Eye malware and maintained the network of servers and mailboxes used to collect the exfil data. Elements in the code, such as the mailb.net.dll library license key that Occhionero acquired in his own name from the US-based software developer AfterLogic, as well as CNC server IP addresses shared by websites publicly connected to him, is what allowed Italian police to identify and put him under close surveillance last August. Now, during the surveillance, Occhionero was probably informed about the ongoing investigation and started deleting data on his servers. The activity, however, was closely observed by police, probably using a state-controlled Trojan. His arrest order lists screenshots and WhatsApp chats as sources, and this type of evidence cannot be obtained with simple communications eavesdropping, noted computer forensics expert Matteo Flora. The combination of an industrial-scale surveillance network operating across international borders for years, along with amateurish blunders like the use of a personally licensed DLL to develop malware and share IPs for both legitimate and criminal activities, is one of the most puzzling aspects of the case. Other questions have arisen as well. How could the two suspects, with possibly limited hacking skills, carry on a massive espionage operation on high-profile government targets without being detected for at least 4 years? Now, Computer World speculates, judging by the targets, mostly in financial and Freemason environments, the two probably wanted to use the obtained information to gain insider information for Westland Securities business and raise Occhionero's profile in the Freemasons. Giulio and Francesca's lawyers denied any wrongdoing, asserting that the server network was only used for business purposes. However, Federico Punzi, writing in the Atlantico, would later inform us, but there's another case that would place the origins of Russiagate in Italy in Rome. This is where it gets very interesting. It's the Pyramid Eye case, the name attributed to the malware investigators with whom Giulio and Francesca would have hacked thousands of email accounts and PCs to spy in practice all the Italian political and economic world and snatch more information. Among the accounts targeted, you will remember those of politicians, institutions, ministers, ministries, corporations, and public bodies. Among the victims of the close-up of the attacks, succeeded or attempted, stand out as President of the Council Matteo Renzi, Senator Mario Monti, ECB President Mario Draghi, Cardinal Rovasi. In July 2018, the two were convicted at first instance for abusive access to computer systems. But they continue to proclaim themselves innocent and indeed denounce being victims of a plot against them. Occhionero complained to the prosecutor of the Republic of Perugia and wrote to the U.S. Congress and the FBI. In fact, there are a number of contradictions and suspicious circumstances in the case. Then there was the strange question that Mario Mazzella, a friend of Giulio is accused of aiding, said he had heard during a search on the morning of 9th January 2017, "Who is your contact in the Trump campaign?" Who is your contact in the Trump campaign? So he's saying he was set up, and they are trying to link him to Trump. Now, this was asked on the same day of the arrest of Occhionero by agents of the National Anti-Crime Center for the Protection of Critical Computer Infrastructure of the state police. The question wasn't notable at the time it happened, but in the following months, in light of the developments of Russiagate, it immediately sprang back to mind, along with the interest shown by agents for Giulio's activities and relationships in the United States. Occhionero, who does not conceal Republican sympathies, has asked the chief prosecutor of Rome, Giuseppe Pignatone, for an account without receiving clarification for now. It was then in January 2017, at the end of the inauguration of the new president, in the midst of the campaign of leaks reported by American newspapers on Russiagate. On January 10th, BuzzFeed published the Steele dossier, and in Italy that same day, for not informing his superiors of the investigation, the director of the state police, Roberto De Legami, was removed from his office. So he's a nuclear engineer. He can write complex software, he's running multiple companies, he's a Mason, and according to certain elements of the Italian government, he's capable of spying on over 18,000 of the world's elite. However, from the very beginning, Occhionero has proclaimed his innocence. In regard to the iPyramid software, he said that Italy is no Five Eyes, but with some pompousness, someone coined the name iPyramid. Now, we all know what this symbol has deep roots with. So, in other words, Occhionero maintains his innocence and more than hints at being framed. And you've got to admire this guy because while still in jail, he began filing criminal complaints against everyone he thought was involved in the conspiracy to frame him. And remember this line, Occhionero complained to the prosecutor of the Republic of Perugia and wrote to the U.S. Congress and the FBI. Yeah, he did, and he gave Neon a copy of the letter he sent to Devin Nunes, along with many other documents. Now, what you begin to see is the shape of a conspiracy that's taking place, and to understand the scope of this, we need to understand exactly what Spygate is. Because it wasn't just spying on the Trump campaign. We tend to think of it as spying, as intercepting communications, listening in on conversations, but that's not it. Now, in short, members of the Italian intelligence were approached by Hillary Clinton, the former president's administration, and the deep state in order to frame Trump by planting evidence on American servers to force Trump to step down from office. Members of Italian intelligence found a target in Occhianero, a Republican sympathizer who had 2 servers for his company, Westland Securities, located in America. One is in Washington state and the other is in West Virginia. The plan was for Italian intelligence to hack into these servers, plant classified emails from Hillary servers inside these servers on American soil, and then alert the FBI. The FBI would then raid these locations, discover these emails, investigate, link the servers to Trump, and then force Trump to resign. Do you understand the implications of what I'm saying here? This is like a policeman planting evidence to fabricate a crime. And if the Italian intelligence actually has classified information, emails from Hillary Clinton, there's another crime in and of itself. This is a huge, huge story. Now, I'm actually in contact with Giulio Occhianero, and I am going to be getting some questions answered from him, and I will be presenting them to you guys in the very near future. But I wanted to show you this article. It's extremely long. It goes on and on and on, but I wanted to get to the heart of it right here. These people, Hillary Clinton and her conspirators, approached Italian intelligence and asked for their help in framing Donald Trump. And those people in Italian intelligence have just been asked to resign. There is so much more information here, guys. I highly suggest you go and read this article. It was also recently covered in the Gateway Pundit. So it goes over the same information. It highlights much of the stuff that I just read to you. But right here is a picture of Robert Mueller and Gianni Di Gennaro, one of those people caught up in this entire Spygate thing. The Italian spy network also had a close relationship with Joseph Mifsud, and Occhianero is one of the people who outed Joseph Mifsud's other name. Now, Occhianero includes in his evidence presented to Neon Revolt lots of documents, lots of information. There is email exchanges going back and forth with them. And I highly suggest you guys go read it because it is just explosive information. So now also, if you'll remember when Devin Nunes suggested that perhaps Joseph Mifsud was working for another intelligence agency, it appears that Joseph Mifsud was actually working for the Italians alongside the UK and in conjunction with the FBI. So here is all of it laid out for you, and I just suggest that everyone go and take a look because it is just an incredible, incredible amount of information. And be looking for my follow-up report speaking with Giulio Occhianero. Well, guys, I think that's all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.